Start now. Welcome to Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, and we have someone who has become a good friend and actually a member of the church where I pastor, Dr. Evelyn Nelson. Welcome to Entrepreneur State of Mind. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Nice to be on air today with you.
Yes, no. Well, it's an honor to have you, and again, I've just been so impressed with you and with your background, and you're a retired professor of NYU, but you're so much more. So as always, I want to begin with your beginning. Where did you grow up, and where did you go to school, and how did you get into what you're doing?
Well, actually, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, and I went to local schools in New Jersey.
Okay.
And
what town in North New Jersey?
I lived on, I guess you would say, it was the east side. My high school was East Side High School.
East Side, in Newark.
They say the east side, the west side, and the south side.
Yeah.
So I went to East Side School.
In Newark. Okay, good. And so you went to East Side.
Yes.
And then what about college? Where did you go to college?
Well, I went to Bloomfield College in Bloomfield, New Jersey.
Oh, wonderful.
But I went to college a lot later than most people would go. I already had my family at that time, and it was sort of like an adventure because I wanted to go long before, but family life and life just took over. So that wasn't possible for me to do right after high school, like most people would think the route you would go. So I went to Bloomfield College, but it was much later in life. I was an adult with a family. Well,
sometimes that's better. Sometimes you appreciate it more when you go, when you go a little later, you've had some life experience, but life gets in the way of so many different things. So Bloomfield College, and so what did you do before graduate school? What did you do between there, and how did you, one of the things I asked this question because we have a lot of young people and others watching to say, hey, I want to be just like her, or so yeah, tell me about that. So after college, what did you do?
Well, it was a decision that I had to make based on family life and whether or not I could do it or not. So my husband was very supportive. My family was very supportive. And at the time, I was actually working in a dental office. So I was working in a dental office as a receptionist, assistant, whatever needed to be done, office manager.
Nice.
And it was a prominent professional building and private practice in East Orange, New Jersey.
Okay.
And I worked there for many, many, many years. And then I had a knack for, I didn't know when I started working at this dental office, I was actually, I was 21 years old.
Okay.
I was 21 years old. And I didn't know what I was going to get myself into. I'm going I don't know if I can sit here and watch somebody's tooth come out of their head,
Right.
But it turns out I had a pretty good knack for it. And over the years and working in the office of Dr. Philip W.G., he was a general practitioner at what was called then Central Parkway Professional Building on Central Avenue in East Orange.
Okay.
I often was told by many of my patients, you should be a dentist, you should be a dentist. And I said, not on your life,
Wow. Wow.
Because I was thinking about the time that it would take to educate myself in that field. Yes. But I did have a knack for it and I did have a passion for it. And I always wanted to be someone who could help people in the health field, somewhere in the health field. I was always looking in that direction.
Right. Well, but it's interesting.
To do that.
But it's interesting. So again, so you're starting out, you're a receptionist. It's sometimes people see things in us that we don't see in ourselves. And they saw your passion, and so that's why I love this story, because everybody thinks everything's a straight line. Well, I went to school, and I always knew I wanted to be a dentist, and I did this, but no, everybody's line is up and down and up and down, and that's the beauty of life. And so appreciate it, appreciate it. And so all right, so you got that push, and what made you go back to school, or what was it that made you say, hey, maybe they're right?
It was the encouragement that I got from my family, the encouragement that I got for the doctors in that building were all working together. There was a building that was it was the first all-black professional building in East Orange, New Jersey.
Oh, wow, really?
And all of the doctors in there were partners in the building of that building.
Okay.
And so I had a good relationship with everybody there, the dermatologist, the oral surgeon, the pediatric doctor. So it was encouraging, with all of those on board, and the doctor I was actually working for
Right.
were encouraging. And so I said, well, let me just try it. Let me just make an application to Bloomfield College and see what happens.
Nice. Wonderful. And you did it. And so you went through college. Did you find college pretty easy? Did you have a knack for it, did you think? Or was it a lot of work?
Yes. I found it easy, only because I'm spending my own money, not my parents' money.
Right, right. It's funny how that makes a difference.
And it was convenient because I had a very good health, not health, but babysitter, if you want to call it that. But she was professional in that sense that she knew how to take care of kids.
Right.
And I was very comfortable with her being there for me. And my husband, of course, stepped in, did a lot of things that I would need to do if I were there. So I felt it easy enough.
Right.
And it was so crazy because I think I was in my 30s. I was in my 30s. And I said, well, I don't know if this is going to work because these young minds are coming straight out of school and they're, they're ready for this. I'm not sure if I'm ready for it or not. So I decided wherever I was, whatever class I was in, I was going to sit right up in the front so I wouldn't be distracted.
Right.
And so that I could pay attention and do what I needed to do. So that first year I was pretty nervous about it, but I studied all the time. And my mother used to say, even Christmas dinner, I'd come with my books. After Christmas dinner, I would disappear and I would be studying.
Wow.
So, it was in my first year. So after your first year, I think it's the first or second term, I decided on my major. And it was only after my first few tests, because you have to take all the basic sciences first.
Right.
So I was really hesitant about one particular subject, which was chemistry.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, chemistry was my worst subject. I got A's and B's in everything except chemistry.
Right. Interesting.
And yes. And there was a professor there that wasn't very encouraging, and I really believe, and I still believe, that he was of the type that believed women didn't have a place in science.
Oh, interesting, interesting.
So it was very discouraging, and that's why I was afraid of that one course.
Right.
So I was determined that I really do really well in that course.
Okay.
And believe it or not, Pastor Caldwell, it was that course that really gave me the encouragement that I could go on, because I had wonderful instructor. Right. And I had a wonderful mentor. Right. And the very first test that I took, I got a 98 on that class.
Really? Wow.
On that test. And the doctor said, very good. Right. Then the next test that we took, I kept getting, all of my grades were in the 90s and high 90s. Okay. So on one of the tests, he wrote across the page, he says, think medic. He said, think medical. So he was very encouraging. His name was Dr. Winokur. Okay. And I'll never forget that name, because he was the one that said, he wrote think med all across the page. Really? Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. And so at that point in time, I think it was in that second semester, I decided to change my major to chemistry. Wow, wow. And it's and orgo, they often say orgo separates the doctors from everybody else. Organic chemistry, it was always the one. So yes, and I actually loved, that was one of my favorite courses, organic chemistry. I really loved that course. But that's, and it was when you're getting your hands in it, you're getting your hands and you're learning a lot of stuff that I still recognize and understand today because of that course. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but that's when you know your doctor material. When you enjoy organic chemistry, I've learned that's a real test for any kind of. All right. So you did that. So what about medical school? Tell me what happened next. Well, So I finished school, and I finished at Bloomfield College. As a general chemist.
Right.
Chemistry, and I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to go into dentistry or stay with chemistry because
Right.
I was interested in forensic chemistry.
Okay. Okay.
So I sort of had an inclination for that.
Right.
But those are the two things I was thinking about when I came out. And then with the encouragement again, looking at where I was and how far I had gone. And all the time I was in school, I did 5 years. I did my whole 4 years and 5 years going part-time.
Right. Right.
So every semester I was in school. So I graduated summa cum laude with a chemistry, general chemistry degree from Bloomfield College.
And so you decided on dentistry. So we're going to have to take a break shortly, but so you decided to go to the dentistry route. So let's take the break, and then we'll hear more about dentistry. And so we'll be right back with Entrepreneur State of Mind and Dr. Evelyn Nelson.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Bob Hochgertel from Kings Road Brewing Company. I'm here to tell you about a brand new show on RVN television called Cooking with the King. Each week, we're going to taste and sample some of the best beers the Kings Road Brewing Company has to offer. And we're going to talk to area chefs and restaurant owners as we pair our beer with their signature dishes. We're going to teach you how to cook and eat like a king. Cheers.
Welcome back to Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, with Dr. Evelyn Nelson. And so she had just told me, which is a great story, on how she got into chemistry and then on to dentistry. And so where did you do your dentistry work, and what did you do immediately after dentistry?
Immediately after dentistry, I still continued to, immediately after graduating from college, I started working in the dental office on Saturdays, and then I started my time at University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey.
Oh, UMD&J. Okay,
so,
yes, all right.
Yes, so that was my school. I went there.
Wonderful.
And while I was there, I was working still in the dental office.
Okay.
And I went. Yes, and there was a person who came and did a conference, and I went to a conference, and this gentleman said to me, his name was Dr. Ralph Katz. He said, "You have an inclination. You have I think you'll do good in the profession of dentistry." And so he was another encouraging person. So when I graduated from college and I started my time at University of Medicine and Dentistry, actually there was a scholarship that was earmarked for someone else. And I was really surprised because when I went to University of Medicine and Dentistry, right in the heart of Newark, I thought I would see more people that looked like me. But I didn't.
But you didn't.
And so as it turns out, the person that was supposed to get this scholarship did not finish school in time. He was going to need a half a year to catch up. And so the scholarship was actually offered to me.
Wow.
And so that was a real benefit for me. And to God, you're looking out for me. Somewhere scholarships
and that helped you through.
In front of me.
So that really helped you through. So all right, so you graduate from UMD&J. Where was your first job?
My first job was back where I started, in the dental office of Dr. Philip G. I had a private practice there.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I was there for, oh my goodness, for maybe about 6 or 7 years practicing there.
Okay.
And then I met someone who I had I still have this curious mind. So that's where I met Dr. Ralph Katz, and we started working from there on research projects and stuff. And I was part of that research group.
Nice.
And as time went on, he encouraged me to make application to NIH. Underrepresented postdoctoral training program. And
and that's the National Institute of Health, right? The National Institute of Health, NIH, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and so you did so you did that, and so well that's a great honor. I mean, to really do that, and so how long did you do that for?
It was a 5-year program.
Oh, wow, really? Wow.
And I had the opportunity to work at different universities. I worked at the University of Connecticut, as well as the University of New Jersey Dental School,
Okay.
UMD&J, then as well as
Right.
NYU.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
when I finished my training and got my master's in public health, then I started working. I got a job application for working exclusively at NYU.
Okay.
So at NYU, I started as an independent contractor working in research areas of oral surgery, actually.
Right. Oh, wow.
There were some problems that they needed solved, some tightening up of research versus clinical work, that kind of thing. And so I was brought in to sort of straighten out the paperwork, so to speak,
Wow.
as a researcher. So that was an independent contractor for NYU for 2 years in that capacity. And then at that point in time, at a later point in time, I was offered a position there as an assistant clinical professor.
Really? What?
Yes.
So part of this whole entrepreneurial mindset is, so you were a receptionist at a dental office, and then you became a dentist in that office, then you became a researcher.
Yes.
So part of the thing, I see too many people, especially women, who say, well, I'm just a receptionist, I'm just a secretary. And they don't know these stories of people who've become lawyers, who've become doctors, who've become...
Right.
And so I love that story, and that's an entrepreneurial state of mind, a way to think about that. It's not, and so I love that. And so how long were you at NYU before you retired?
I started at NYU in 1999, and I just retired this year before July 1st, 2021.
Wow,
so
wow, that's you're still young, so you still have a lot of time ahead of you. And so what were some of the interesting things that you did at NYU? You know.
Well, at NYU, I was able to mentor other students. I was a part of the admissions committee. That was very interesting, not only for the general population, the general dentist program, but also for the advanced program.
Right.
And I was on clinical floor in charge of the daily care that we are teaching our students to employ at the dental school. They do the work.
Right.
And we stand behind them to guide them, correct them, intervene when necessary, that kind of thing, because the students actually do the work.
Right.
But the training is coming from the faculty.
Right.
And so as faculty, you're responsible for that training. So we teach, we do a lot of other things. We hold, I did as well as others, hold classes. Some of those classes were very early in the morning, like 7 o'clock in the morning. Can you imagine going to a class at 7 o'clock? And I live in New Jersey, and I got to get to New York by 7 o'clock.
By 7 a.m. That's
a lot of the early mornings. I just got used to it.
Yeah, that's getting up at 4. So what advice do you have? So that, a young person that wants to get in the medical profession, and, what do you know now that you'd like to impart on people who have this entrepreneurial mindset that, hey, I want to have my own practice, I want to do that. What are some of the things that you would give to young people who are pursuing this career?
Well, certainly I would say don't give up.
Right.
If this is something that you want to do. Hold up. I'm sorry. There's an interruption here.
Yeah, and so I just think it's so important because you are, you have modeled, a career success, and so what are some of the things too that people
some of
should
the
know?
things I would say would certainly not give up on your dream, because I think the initial thing you feel like you want to do is the thing you really want to do, and I always wanted to be in the medical profession, doing something to help people. But I didn't see that in the beginning. I know it was a dream of mine, but I didn't see that in the beginning. And don't let finances get in the way, because if you do your best, and I got scholarships without even trying, just for having good grades. Right. That's where every scholarship I ever got was because of my my drive to just do the best I can while I'm there. Right. I'm not just in school. I'm there to make a difference. And so keep that in mind. Right. And don't give up, and look into other things that you might find that are connected to that. Right. There was I don't think there was any mystery that I took that job. The reason I took that job initially with the dental office at the age of 21 was because it was by chance.
Right.
Because before that, I was working at a place called Newark Evening News Publishing Company. I was a programmer for
Oh, really? Okay.
their final notice program. So I was working with IBM, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Univac computers, writing programs for a publishing company.
Wow.
And after I had my first child was when I was on my little short sabbatical, and then that's when I saw this ad in the paper,
right,
asking for a dental assistant, no experience necessary, and it was close by my house. I could actually walk there if I didn't have a car. And that opportunity I took, I said, oh, well, I always wanted to do, let me just see what it's about.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened.
And
that's how I got hooked.
But that's
dentistry at that point in time.
But that's
so don't give up on your dream.
Yeah. Well, but that's, Evelyn, unfortunately we're at the end of time, but for the show, but that's a real powerful, you had a really good job, but then you followed your passion and you took a step back that sets you up to take 3 steps forward. And so that's what people need to know, that you should be doing what you're passionate about. Don't do what other people tell you should be doing, because oftentimes you're not going to be doing that. And so this is any final word before we close. But this has been great. You have the entrepreneurial mindset. It's valuable information for people who are looking into their carear. And so I want to just thank you for being on and congratulate you with all that you've done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to change. You know, there's okay to change. If you see that path that you're going in is not what you really feel comfortable in. And I always felt that a person should be passionate about what they do.
Yes.
You don't want to take a job that's just a job. You want to feel good in that job. So think of it that way as well. Well,
Evelyn, Dr. Evelyn Nelson, thank you so much for being on Entrepreneur State of Mind. You are a tremendous role model and an amazing person, and so thank you. I want to thank all of you for watching Entrepreneur State of Mind, and we will see you next week. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell. Have a great week.
Thank you for having me.